209 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, coming to you live from YouTube, except I'm saying that perhaps with a little bit too much confidence because I need to just make sure that things are being streamed at the moment on my tablet. It looks as though they are, so we are good to go. And can we adjust the lighting somehow? It looks a little bit dark from this end. Let me just reach over you for a sec to see if we can do anything. Maybe that might help. You never quite know how YouTube is going to decide to show things. First comment goes to Leah. So excited you are back. And second comment goes to, thank you very much for the phonetic explanation there of how to pronounce your name, Johanna. Hello, yay for the new season, and lots of comments coming through already. Hello from Chicago. For those of you who are not watching live and don't know what everybody is going on about, this is the first video that I'm doing after a kind of extended summer break. I think the last one we did was towards the end of July, wasn't it? Which means it's been quite some time since we have met up together in this forum. But if you're watching the recording, then you can just go from episode 208 to 209 in however long it takes you to click on next, I suppose. Anyway, for those of you watching live particularly, I hope you've all been well. I hope you've all been safe. I hope you've all had a good summer. Please feel free to tell me what what perfumes you've been wearing over the last few weeks, whether you've made any exciting new discoveries. We will try and take a few of the live comments as we go through. But even if you're not watching live, feel free to answer all of those questions in the comments below, and I will get round to them as soon as I can. I thought that seeing as this is the first video we're doing after an extended break, it might be fun to do a longer format one, just so that we can have the feeling of getting back into the swing of hanging out with the gang and talking about lists of scents, etc. So the usual format of the shorter videos looking at new releases will be back pretty soon too. A lot of you have asked me to do a video on the brand new Frederic Malle, which is an exciting release, absolutely, but I haven't managed to get a sample of it yet, so watch this space. What are people saying? So nice to see you again, says Mario. Bonjour from Paris, says Chang. Yura says hello all. Andy Goring says hello from Edinburgh. What is our topic for today? Well, good question. I haven't even mentioned that. Today's top 10 then is my list for autumn 2021. But as you know, when I do these seasonal videos, I like to give them a little bit of an extra theme. And my feeling, and I tried not to question too much where this feeling was coming from, my feeling was that for autumn 2021, we might want to feel a bit more grounded, a bit more centered, but also a bit more mellow. I don't want to say chilled because I hate saying the word chilled. I'm probably too old to say chilled. I don't know. No, actually, I was probably never young enough to say chilled. It's just not the sort of word that I would have used. So we'll say mellow instead. Maybe scents that puts you not so much in an introspective state of mind, that you just end up being completely by yourself and indulging in navel gazing and just being in your own company, but introspective with a small group of friends. Perfumes. But I think mellow isn't it a line from Keats's To Autumn, mists and mellow fruitfulness. I think that's from To Autumn, isn't it? And somebody's saying, is it autumn already? I suppose technically it isn't autumn until the 20th, 21st of September, but we thought we'd kind of jump the gun a little bit and make the recommendations now. Shimon is saying, hello everyone. Hi Shimon, special hello to you. You kind of partly inspired this video actually. Yura saying, tempering the excitement of summer. Yeah, Miguel says, hi from Madrid, Spain. Frederick is in the Netherlands. Hello from Portugal, says Sergio. Sire Persolaise says, Mr. Dark Shines. We should smell a perfume because we're already at the 5-minute mark. And let's do this one. This is a release from, I think technically it counts as a 2020 release, even though very few people got to try it in 2020. It didn't actually properly come out until this year. And it is this. So our first recommendation for best perfumes for autumn 2021 is Paris-Edimbourg, Paris-Edinburgh, from Chanel. And I took this away with me when we went away on our extended break. And I did enjoy wearing it. I absolutely enjoyed wearing it, and I wore it quite a bit. But every single time I wore it, I thought to myself, this isn't so much. Ooh, hang on, I can't see exactly where I'm placing this. Though the joys of having two monitors. I thought to myself that even though it would probably work fine for any season. There is something very, very autumnal about this. Very quickly, for those of you who may not be aware, a few years ago, Chanel released this travel collection. So it's always been Paris something or other. What have we got? We've got a Paris Biarritz, a Paris Venice, a Paris Riviera. All of them have been done by current in-house perfumer Olivier Polge. And as per usual, this particular brand, all of the destinations are in some way related to Coco Chanel's life. And this one was related to the fact that she had some sort of a connection with Edinburgh. I mean, some of these connections can be quite spurious. You know, they could probably find a link with it anywhere, except maybe they probably couldn't do a Paris-Dubai. But then maybe Gabrielle Chanel went to the south of Iran and Dubai in the early 20th century and saw that women had been wearing trousers there forever, and maybe that's where she got the idea. So there you go, Chanel. You can have that idea for free. That's your idea for Paris, Dubai. But thank you so much for all of the enthusiasm, by the way. I feel very much appreciated today. Thank you very much. But this has got a windswept quality to it. And he says there is a slightly mentholated note in this fragrance that sometimes catches me off guard. I know what you mean. It's meant to be very, very outdoorsy, right? So it's meant to be hawthorn and hedges and grass and windswept Scottish landscapes. There's a kind of maybe chypre quality to it, or maybe somewhere the intersection between a chypre and a fougère. Already autumn in Europe, says Gin Tonic. Hot weather in Doha. Yeah, well, when is it not hot in Doha? Good morning. It's 8:07 a.m. in Las Vegas, says Gabriel. And so is that when the people leave the casinos to go home and get some sleep? And so, as I say, I wore this a few times over the summer, and every single time I did, I pictured leaves yellowing and days getting just a tiny little bit shorter. And yet, that time of year when, even though those autumnal changes are taking place, it's still possible to spend a fair bit of time outside. It's still possible to go out of an evening and maybe enjoy a drink at a cafe sitting outside. You may need to wrap up a little bit more with like an autumn coat or something like that, but it's okay. The elements are still kind enough to allow you to enjoy that outside space. So that's why it gets a space on this list, because there's something quite thoughtful about this piece of work from Polge. There's something quite intellectual about it, even though it has all of these outdoorsy elements. And maybe I'm sort of thinking off the top of my head as I'm smelling it here now. Maybe it's to do with the fact that these outdoorsy elements have been presented as though they're being observed from an internal landscape. You know, you sort of maybe you're sitting in this cafe on the terrace in the cafe and watching the wind coming in across the sea on a beach, or you're watching the wind blowing through a forest that isn't too far away. Do you know what I mean? It's got this sort of sense of inside-outside contrasts. Terry says, guess I only missed 4 minutes. So great. Love when this epic fragrance reviewer, thank you very much, does his epic reviews. Love Persolaise. Very, very kind. I want to be as tanned as he is. Very nice. Well, I was very, very fortunate to be in a place where the sun was plentiful and bountiful. Let's label this one Chanel, because it's the only Chanel on the list, and we need to move on because it's almost 10 minutes and we've only done the one. Let me do the other one that's on the thumbnail for the video, so that we get those two out of the way and the rest can be surprises. And this is from another pretty big brand. This came out a couple of years ago, 2019, and it's Dior's doing whatever I desperately can to try and lighten up the image, because sometimes if the camera sees, no, it's not going to happen, is it? So we've got autumnal lighting today, okay? This is Spice Blend from Dior's collection Privé, Collection Privé. Persolaise #1 perfume review disregarding Oud Rosewood, says Danny. Why did you not like Oud Rosewood? Well, here's another Dior. This is Spice Blend, of course, composed by François Damachi. And I said this on the blog a few weeks ago in a written article, but it's worth saying it again here now. But the Collection Privé, and yes, apparently, by the way, it is called Collection Privé again. It's gone back to being called that. I think Dior decided maybe that is the best name for it. It's very, very definitely a collection of deux halves at the moment. One half being, I think, very, very overtly commercial sense and quite sheer, light, mostly floral compositions that maybe are trying to appeal to the Far Eastern market, the Asian market. And there is, there is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with making perfumes that you think people are going to enjoy and people are going to buy. And then there are these, to our tastes, slightly bolder, braver, more out there compositions, which hark back to what the Collection Privé was like when it came to us in the form that we know it now, back in 2010. I know that we had Au Noir and I think Bois d'Argent before that, but the collection as a whole, with things like Leather Oud and what were some of the other ones, Vetiver and Grandville, that was in 2010. And this Spice Blend, I mean, it is really, really good. I didn't take this one away with me. I actually took Oud Rosewood away with me, which I very much enjoyed. But it's the boozy quality of this. It's that idea which we have had in perfumery before, of the ship bearing spices and bearing caskets of rum going around the world, with all of the smells of that cargo combining with each other. It's an idea that Mona Diorio explored really, really well. I think in her vanilla, unless I'm mistaken. I think it was the vanilla one that had all of those spices and this vanillic element. But it's the boozy woodiness here. I'm just really enjoying smelling it again, actually, and just trying to give myself a moment of silence to compose my thoughts. But it's the woody booziness that I think is what makes me want to include it in this list, because that is the element that I think makes me think of friends sitting round together, not a large group of friends, close friends, 3 or 4 friends, no more than that, but people who've known each other for a long while and who can talk to each other with no barriers and no false formalities, etc. And it's very unusual for me to get this, or it's very strange for me to get this image, but I sort of see, ice cubes clinking in whiskey glasses. And the reason why I say that that's strange is, number one, because I'm not much of a drinker, and I'm certainly not a whiskey drinker, and I don't think that I personally have ever had an evening where I've sat around with friends clinking ice cubes in a glass of whiskey. If I'd be partaking of any alcoholic beverage, it would probably be a glass of wine or maybe some kind of fruity after dinner liqueur or something like that. Rarely, very, 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 very rarely whiskey. And yet that is the image that comes to mind. Who knows why, what sort of associations I'm making. And so that's why it's making me think of this mellow, introspective, calm, but also tender autumn that I think I'm hoping for. Something where I don't know whether we're heading for a period of regrouping. For some people, for a lot of people, I'm sure the summer was not altogether that different from previous months, but some people were able to get away, have a break from routines. And I think, having conversations with certain people who were able to do that, there was almost a kind of sense of surrealism that it was possible to do that. There was a sense of almost a kind of mild surprise that the outside world does still exist and you can travel to it. And so maybe now that's why I'm thinking that for autumn, we don't exactly want to batten down the hatches, but we want to go back to our roots almost, but I mean maybe like home roots. I'm reminded very much of the Jessie Ware song called Remember Where You Are, and I was thinking of that song very much when I was choosing the 10 perfumes for this list. So I think maybe the lyrics of that song might give you an idea as well of where my head was, where my head was at, as some people say, when I chose the perfumes here. Lots and lots of comments coming through. Whiskey is a favourite tipple for me, says Eric. Hello, welcome back, everyone, says Gavin. So people saying hello to Gavin. Rich Mitch is saying, horrible as it has been, we're living through history. Yes, absolutely. And I think maybe the summer was a period when there was a kind of acceleration of this weird period of history that we're living through, and maybe now we want to slow things down a little bit just to feel a little bit calmer, safer. I don't know. Danny Duberstein says the Dior official website works for me in the UK. Okay, great. Whiskey is the best, says Yura. Prefer rum to whiskey, says Yoshi Yoshi. Now we're going to have a conversation about favourite tipples. Aline says, I've made it to a live. You're very, very welcome. A DJ says, when I saw the timer on your Instagram, I was hoping for a roasting of one of the new releases. That's probably going to come. I have sampled the Elixir version of Dior Sauvage. I don't know whether there's any point in doing a video on it, but you tell me, maybe you might fancy a video on that. We need to move on with this. Frederick says, I love that song. I know, it's a beautiful song, isn't it? There's something so grounding about that song, and so romantic and so tender. Those are the sorts of words that were going through my mind. Okay, let's go for another release, which again technically came out in 2020, but most people, I think, didn't really get a chance to try until just a few months ago when it went on general release. I love this stuff. This is, can you see the name? How do I have to hold it for you to be able to make out the name? It's Rouge from Comme des Garcons. Woozy says, we need that Elixir video as a sequel to Viking Cologne. Jeremy, Sauvage is so bad. Eau Sauvage, on the other hand, is amazing. Yeah, and if you could get your hands on some vintage Eau Sauvage. Anyway, this is Rouge from Comme des Garcons. I still haven't been able to find out who the perfumer is. I'm sure the information is out there somewhere. But this was one of my favourite releases of last year. Maybe the reason why I included it on this list today is because of its vegetal aspect, because this has got a very, very pronounced beetroot note. But weird as that may sound, it really works. The beetroot note really, really works. I think because its earthiness, its rootiness is emphasized, and it's been linked to a very, very well-handled, well-judged incense note. The latest diptyque has beetroot in it, says Rich Mitch. I did not know this. Found Rouge too sweet for me, says Frag Chi-Town. Oh, the latest diptyque is called Kyoto. I didn't know that either. Well, that's a bit odd with the Comme des Garçons connection, isn't it? And what else can I say about this one? I often get, I don't think it's in the list of notes. I know pepperiness is in the list of notes. But I get a gingery quality to this as well, which I've always enjoyed. Aline says, you said my name properly. I'm gobsmacked. Oh, well, good. I'm pleased. Yura says, beetroot has orris-like and patchouli-like qualities. Yes, I absolutely agree, especially with the patchouli because of the earthiness, I suppose. And I suppose earthy is a word that we could use for orris as well. But this is... It's such a curious release, Rouge, because even though it's got this vegetal, earthy aspect, it does make me think in the best possible way, okay? And maybe it's the power of persuasion, with the name and with the bottle, color of the bottle. It does make me think of blood. But what do I mean when I say in the best possible way? Because I think it makes me think of blood ties and blood bonds. I'm a very, very strong believer in the fact that we choose our family. I mean, yes, okay, you can't choose your blood family. You can't choose much as some people may wish to be able to choose their family members. Let's not go any further. Obviously, you can't choose your blood relatives, but I think in the kind of broader sense of the word family and who you consider to be your family, who you consider to be your nearest and dearest, you can choose your family. And it's those sorts of concepts and those sorts of ideas that this release makes me think of, because again, it's about close bonds. It's that same small intimate gathering that we had from Dior's spice blend that is evoked here as well, except without booze. Here they're just having borscht, beetroot soup, right, with a bit of sour cream. But again, it's very, very tender. It's very, very emotional, and it's quietly strong. You know how some friendships, tried and tested, true friendships, will overcome any difficulties. I think that's what this perfume represents to me. Hello from Bombay, says Planter's Daughter. Wow, what time must it be there? About what, 9? 8:30, 9 o'clock? All my love and best wishes to that most beautiful of cities. I love that city so much, and I hope I'll be able to go back one day soon. Hussein says, Comme des Garcons 2-man will forever be my favorite Comme des Garcons, perfect for autumn as well. Yes, I mean, that is a genius. It's probably still my favorite perfume of theirs overall. Victoria says, haven't tried Rouge, but must try it. Apparently, it smells a bit like the Eastern European beetroot stew borscht. Not sure about the spelling. Yes, depends on which language you're trying to write it in, because I think, well, Russian has a different alphabet anyway, but with my Polish hat on, I say borscht. Vernon says, currently wearing Spice Blend. Fantastic. Do you get the color red with Rouge? Says, yes, absolutely. No, I completely do. But a very, very, this kind of red, okay? A really, really dark, dark, dark blood red. Would love to have you in India, says Jessica. Oh, I would love to go back to India one day soon. I've been 3 times, and that's nowhere near enough, as you know. I mean, it's such a huge country, so much to see, but I'd love to go back to the places I've already been to and to see new places. Tomasz says, hello from Katowice, Poland. I can't make out which Chanel from Maison is standing on this pile of books, but the CDG Rouge has too much of that beetroot in itself. I'd rather eat borscht. This is Paris-Edinbourg, but don't worry, at the end of the video, there will be a full list of all of the perfumes in the video description. Yoshi says, was disappointed with Oriental from Comme des Garcons. Yes, I think I was as well. Persolaise is my nearest and dearest celebrity, says Mr. Darkshines. Thank you very much. Big love from Florida. And I saw somebody else saying, Trusted Nose wrote, friends are family you choose. Yes, I agree. Now, let's label this. Where's my pencil gone? Because you can tell I haven't been talking on these videos for a while. I could be rabbiting on forever. Planter's Daughter, it's about 9 p.m. in Bombay. Very cool after a monsoon shower. The scent of jasmine in the air. Actually, when I went to Mumbai, it's about 11 years ago now. It was during the monsoon season, and gosh, was it a heavy monsoon season that year. Very memorably so. Fernando Milan says, I haven't tried Rouge yet, but all the Comme des Garçons I tried so far have this vegetal aspect. Really? Interesting. White musk and violet leaf, I think, remind me of Francis Kurkdjian's line for Narciso Rodriguez. Interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Okay, let's move on. We've been talking about the Indian subcontinent, so let's kind of stay roughly in that part of the world. And is this actually the oldest release? Oh, no, it's not. Okay, this is from 2006. I'm just looking at my list of releases here, and I think they're pretty much all 21st century, apart from one, which is an 80s scent. Now, that's interesting. How did that happen? Was that me thinking that... that is curious. I usually have a few older ones, but as you know, I am such an overthinker that I always try to do my best not to overthink these lists, because if I did, I would never be able to get any of these lists done. I wonder if a Serge Lutens will come up, says Yura. Now, if a Lutens were to come up, which one would it be? But, as I said, let's kind of stick around the Indian subcontinent and let us go to 2006 for this. Dzongkha from L'Artisan Parfumeur, old-ish bottle, as you can see, composed by Bertrand Duchaufour. Not a scent that we have talked about very much here on these Love at First Scent videos. And I don't know why, because it is fantastic. I mean, look at that. For me, that is a lot of usage, okay? And this is almost at the point. I mean, this is this is how pernickety and sad I can be with my perfume bottles, because now this is almost at the point where I think, okay, don't use any more because you need to save the rest. And I think most normal people would start worrying about that until they got up to about there. But no, Persolaise is already freaking out here, saying, no, this is, but perfume's meant to be used, right? Woozy says, of the two J scents, it's usually Zing that gets talked about more. Yes, and I suppose I talk about it more as well, and I love it. But this one, I don't know if I know anybody who doesn't like the Dzongkha, actually. I mean, it is... here we go. Should have got the 100 ml, says Yoshi. Yes, I know. Well, you know, when you look back on these things, I probably should have bought 3 bottles of the 100 ml. I've only ever tried Tea for Two, says Jeremy. Wasn't a fan. Now, I really like Tea for Two, but I'm not sure if Tea for Two, I would say, is representative of L'Artisan's style overall. So you need to check them out. You will find at least a few L'Artisan scents that you will love. It's such a strong range, despite the fact that they've gone through changes and got rid of quite a few of their perfumes. Terry says, I am like that too about how much I use out of my bottles. I want them all to stay full. I know, right? Wouldn't it be great if you could just use them and never actually use them up? Kim says, L'Artisan used to be so good, now much weaker. Do you think so, really? I don't know. Oh, Yoshi has vintage backups of Timbuktu. Anyway, Dzongkha, for those of you... so fascinating. By the way, all your Serge Lutens guesses so far have been wrong. So yes, I will reveal there is a Lutens on the list, but it's not any of the ones that I've seen flashing past, unless I've missed something. Dzongkha, for those who don't know, is actually... depends on which side you're smelling it from, okay? Elva Nui, this is your beloved scent. Tell us what you like about it. Tell us why you love it. Because you smell it from the one side, and it's this fantastic, spiritual, meditative temple incense. You can see the incense being burned. You can see the smoke coils rising to the tops of the temples. But you sort of smell it from the other side, and it's an iris. And I think that's the aspect that my nose is a little bit blind to. Nobody's got the Serge Lutens yet, but if you just go through the list of all of the Lutens, you will eventually get to it. So I'm going to stop looking at the list now, because no, it's not Datura Noir, it's not Chergui, it's not Borneo. It's going to be a complete curveball for Serge. Anyway, let's go back to Dzongkha. And so my nose seems to be a little bit blind to the iris, and I have to keep sort of telling myself and consciously seeking the iris out. And when I do smell it, I do see it. And I suppose the iris is what, for me, gives it the sort of fuzziness, because I have always thought of Dzongkha as being like Timbuktu from the same brand, same perfumer, but Timbuktu with a great big bushy beard. This is like a kind of hairier Timbuktu. I don't know if you would agree or disagree. I get so much iris in Dzongkha, says David. Yeah, see, it's a funny thing with that. Whereas I'm smelling it now and going, oh yes, of course there is iris in here, but incense. I've also rarely, well, no, I shouldn't take that sentence back. At the beginning, when I was getting to know Dzongkha, I found it difficult to get past a sort of vegetable stew note, particularly celery, Like, you know, if you're putting celery in a soup, celery stalks, I mean, that very, very specific, rooty, we've used the word rooty a lot actually, which is probably appropriate for a video on autumn. But anyway, that very, very unique, rooty, metallic, salty saline feel that celery seems to add to stocks and to soup. And it took me ages to get past that. And I still smell it now. I get a similar sort of effect from Yataghan, from Caron. So I had a little bit of a troubled journey, I think, with Dzongkha, but now I think it's absolutely one of the best l'artisans and one of Duchaufour's best perfumes because it is so complex and it seems to be doing so many things. So it has got the incense note, it has got the peppery note, it has got the vegetable stew note, it has got the sort of saline note, and it has got the iris note as well. And it is the very definition of contemplation and mellowness, and again, that sense of settling down, the mists of autumn making you sit down gently and ponder and ruminate. Yeah, you getting where I'm coming from? Yataghan is an autumn-winter classic for me, says Andy. Still lots of Lutens guesses. I'm ignoring them now. Gavin says Timbuktu is very radiant. Oh, we on Timbuktu. You spray it one day and it scents your whole place through the next day. Plus, it's a weirdly refreshing use of incense, vetiver, and spices. Yes, I agree. Oh, because somebody asked what the hype is about Timbuktu. Well, if you don't like Timbuktu, you don't like Timbuktu. But I love Timbuktu, and I would agree with Gavin there. I think there's something about its volume control that is just superb. Dzongkha is perfectly shaven to me, says Eric, especially next to the sweaty Timbuktu. Own them both, though. Interesting. The first time I tried Dzongkha was a culture shock, says Jay Lee. You've got to tell us why. And Elva Nui here, because it's your beloved perfume. Well, to me, it's like stepping into an old, humid stone church interior. Yeah, definitely that stone dampness. And standing with my back to the wall, cooling and reassuring, old and safe and comforting. Well, it's giving me goose pimples, your description. Such a calming, beautiful presence. Yes, 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 to all of the above. Absolutely. Couldn't have described it better myself. It is really beautiful. Ilias, hello. Yasu Ilia, okay, caught you live. Very happy to be caught. Fernando Milan says, Timbuktu smells like mustard, incense, and Gillette shaving foam. Which one? I like it, though. Interesting. Any Frederick Mal on this list, says Woozy. You'll have to wait to find out. And Ilias saying, my favourite autumn scents are Rockabar by Hermès and Coromandel. Yeah. And final thought on Dzongkha from Gavin. I see Dzongkha, Timbuktu and Timbuktu as a set of three very much first of their kind, much emulated. Yeah, you're not wrong there, absolutely. But this has inspired me. Perhaps I'm going to wear this tomorrow to work. See what responses it gets. I haven't worn it for a long time, actually, but it immediately came to mind when I was thinking of things that are mellow and calming. Apparently, Duchaufour is particularly proud of Dzongkha. Yes, I think I've read that somewhere as well. Okay, now let's go to 2002. Now, this was a holiday find. We found ourselves in the Italian, as you do, we found ourselves in the Italian town of, where did I buy this? In Ventimiglia. And there was a little perfumery there, and they had a few bottles on discount, and I thought, always need to be checking out the bargains. And they had this on discount, and I thought, I haven't smelt this for a while, for a long, long while. And I smelled a few things that they had from this brand. But this is the one that I went for because I thought, you cannot go wrong with a 30ml purchase, especially if it's discounted. I think this is a brand that I'm not sure we've ever talked about it on this channel. If we have, it's been a long, long time. It's Costume National. And this is their scent, which I believe was their first perfume from 2002, composed by Laurent Bruyère, who I think did a few others for them as well. Now, who out there knows this one? Certainly never talked about this particular one on this channel because I haven't even had a bottle of it, but I thought I will add this to this list. Now, what made me buy it what made me add it to this list, I hear you ask? Well, it very much smells of its time. It smells like something from the late 90s, early 21st century. I think because of its use of amber and spice. Woozy says, Costume National is quite nice. I enjoy Homme from Dominique Ropion quite a bit, even though Soul was a bit of a misfire. I'm just going from there to there because your comment disappeared there and popped up here. And there was a time when a lot of the ambers that came out smelt very much like this. And I think smelling this in the shop in Ventimiglia made me think, oh, could we go back to a time when ambers were a bit like this? Because they had a little bit more classiness to them. I think a little bit more sophistication. They didn't shout quite so loud, even though they were perfectly long-lasting and tenacious. And let me kind of sort of sort out the geek thoughts in my head. It's almost like there was a period in the late 90s, early 21st century, where the ambery idea, the vanillic ambery feel that's at the base of Dior's Dune, because there's very definitely a link with Dune here. It's almost like a masculine Dune. I know that there is a Dune Homme, but that's kind of different from the feminine Dune anyway. That's much greener, isn't it? It's almost like they took that vanillic amber from Dior's Dune and thought, okay, let's spice it up. Let's make that the twist that we add onto it. And pink pepper, of course, was the ingredient du jour in those days. And so if you can think of, if you haven't smelt this, if you can think of a combination between Dior's Dune and Michel Almerac's much mentioned and much loved Gucci pour Homme for Gucci, with the incense and the pepper and the cedar, then you kind of get a sense of what the Costume National is. Love it when you geek think, says Frag Chaitan. I can't not geek think. It is the way my brain works. I cannot switch the geek chip off ever. I mean, it is a little bit of a curse sometimes, but never mind. But I guess if you watch this channel, you like the geek think. If you watch this channel for 2 minutes and think, oh my God, I'm never going to be listening to this guy again, you don't like the geek think. So, you know, each to their own geek. In France, I saw a shop with the most fantastic name. It was called the Geekosphere, and I thought somebody needs to make a whole chain of shops called Geekosphere. It was a kind of shop and a gaming bar, I think. They had so much Lego in it. It was all Madame Persolaise could do to actually pull me away from it. I was very tempted to join the Geekosphere. I'm here for the tangent, says Johanna, but not the coughs, right? So, this, Ilias says, actually, the only reason I never bought Costume National scent was Cacharel's Nemo are the spices. Yes, absolutely. Did you hear? You heard that siren? Did you, Rich? Sorry, I'm on quite a main-ish road. So this gets onto the list because compared to the ambers that we have now, it is so much mellower, so much more introspective than what we have. Persolaise, you need to get a move on because it's 40 minutes and you have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 perfumes. It's because I want to engage with all of you lot as much as possible. Okay, so remaining 5 perfumes in 20 minutes. We've got to do it. Victoria says, ambers are perfect for autumn. Bought Ombre Roussi from Parfum d'Empire and very much looking forward to wearing it. That is a good amber. That's like Ambre Sultan, but with booze, right? Whereas Serge Lutens' Ambre Sultan is the amber, but with dried herbs. Let's do the Lutens. Let's get you out of your misery. Let's do the Lutens. I don't think I saw this one being mentioned. So there you go. But maybe it is a little bit of a curveball. This is not the original bottle in which this one appeared. This is its current bottle. But I looked at it in my collection and I thought, yes, this is going to be autumn. Special 90-minute edition, says Eric. No, we will never ever go over an hour here because I think YouTube starts getting funny with live videos that are over an hour and it takes them ages to be uploaded and processed. So no, we are stopping at the 60-minute mark. The Lutens is Santal Blanc. Didn't I don't think anybody guessed this one. Um, as I say, I just saw it and I immediately thought, yes, this is the mood I'm going for. This is the vibe I'm going for. Let us spray it quickly. Uh, really good sandalwood scent for those of you who are not aware of it. How am I doing with this collection of bottles? I can't actually see if you can still see them all. Let's bring them a little bit closer together. Um, that was a surprise, says Leah. There you go. Oh, so it is a curveball. Okay, so you weren't expecting that one. Interesting, says Eric. Oh dear, is this people unsubscribing right now? Going, didn't expect that one, says Angela. Um, as I said, it was a curveball. Do I get a prize? Says Woozy. No. Um, and already, smelling this on the blotter, I'm thinking straight away, whoa, 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 this needs to be on skin. I mean, obviously, all perfumes need to be on skin. And there's one blotter that I need to kind of throw far away from myself, and it's the Comme des Garcons, because that beetroot note is right. Let's fling that away, because that's really, really strong. It's projecting right here. The clear juice would make me want to drink it, says Kim. I prefer Gris Clair from this collection. Yeah, that's you're right to sort of link the two together, I think. Sandalwood makes sense, but picking that one above, picking that one above all other sandalwoods, well, for today, yes. I think I like the fact that even though it is distinctly creamy sandalwoody, woody sandalwoody, I should say, it does justify its name, because there is something pale. Whiteness was a color that I found myself thinking of as well, bizarrely, in relation to autumn, because with the Comme des Garçons, it was a toss-up between rouge and white. And then in the end, I thought, no, 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 maybe this is more autumn. But with the white, I stuck with the Lutens, because I think there's something about the link between the sandalwood and the musks that I find very, very cocoon-like. I mean, what are some of the other Lutens sandalwoods, for instance, or other sandalwoods? So, Santal Majuscule, for instance, from Lutens. Much as I love it, I think it's a little bit too loud and spicy and sweet for what I'm going for with this. Other sandalwoods that I like, Santal Blush from Tom Ford. Again, same sort of thing. I think probably a little bit too much projection for what I'm trying to capture with this list. Dries Van Noten would break his rules as it's now discontinued, says Woozy. Oh, so you're thinking of other sandalwoods. Yura says so Dries Van Noten. Yes. Do I think of Dries Van Noten as an autumn scent? I suppose I kind of do, but again, this is the trying to avoid the overthinking, okay? It's not one that came to mind today. And I've talked a fair bit about Dries Van Noten lately, because I've written about the fact that it's been discontinued. Athénissance Santal Basmati is a ricey sandalwood. Now, with a name like that, I need to try that perfume. They've made something called Santal Basmati. That needs to make its way to me. Gavin says Santal Majuscule is like a sauce in the Ben & Jerry's core creation. It doesn't have that dry autumn aspect. Dries Van Noten is awful in my opinion, says Rich Mitch. Fair enough. Milky Musk from Parlement de Parfum is a nice sandalwood scent, says Chang. Yes, there are lots out there, but that's the one we went for today. But try it on skin. Try it on skin. Right. How many have we got left? We've got 4 left to do. What shall we end with? What would be a good one to end with? Where are my 4? 1, 2, 3. Oh, yes, let's do this one, because I haven't got the proper bottle of it. Maybe this is going to be a curveball as well. And this is a good time of year to mention it. Because, again, I looked at this and I thought, maybe we'll do this one on this list. And it's Le Labo's, can you see? It's Gaiac 10. I have to remind myself what the number is. This was first released in 2008. And one thing that I'd forgotten was that is composed by Annick Menardo, which absolutely automatically makes it worth checking out. The reason why I say that this is a good time of year to mention it is because this counts as one of Le Labo's city exclusives, in case you weren't aware. And September is the only month in each year where you can buy any of the city exclusives anywhere. So normally this is exclusive, unless I'm mistaken, to Tokyo, but at the moment you can buy it from the Le Labo website wherever you are, and you can get it from any Le Labo boutique. And I think, and Le Labo fans will tell me if this isn't correct, but I'm pretty sure this is correct. I think once you've bought a large-ish bottle, then you can have it refilled in lots of places. You don't have to go back to, like, Tokyo in this case to have it refilled, or you can wait until the next September to buy another bottle. Not a city exclusive, please, says Woozy. We only have two kidneys, and most of us have already traded one for Interlude 53. Yeah, but Interlude 53 is worth it, isn't it? Not Santal 33, says Angela. I see. I love Santal 33 as well. But this one, I think it's, well, number one, I think it's the fact that it's called Gaiac 10, and actually the Gaiac note is quite prominent in it, which is unusual for a Le Labo scent. But the I actually thought that if there is one note that for me is something I would like to cite as summing up autumn 2021, it is Gaiac. Something about the fact that it is incensey but woody as well, so it has that spiritual aspect to it, it has that grounded aspect to it has that earthy aspect to it, that very natural aspect, slightly rough, and slower, so not the kind of effervescence of some other notes or the sweetness and color of floral notes. So how is it Pantone that they say what the color of each year is going to be? I think the note for autumn 2021, according to Persolaise, is Gaiac. Not that I'm saying that there are going to be lots of perfumes released with Gaiac in them, but I think that would sum up the vibe for autumn 2021. Oud and Santal from Cartier is my new fave sandalwood discovery, says Gino. I like Gaiac a lot, but I prefer Poivre, says Eric. So far, I have avoided buying it, though. I think if you were just being very, very objective, in the sense of just choosing one perfume over another perfume to say which one you prefer, I think I would probably prefer Poivre as well. But for the purposes of this list, I decided to go for Gaiac. But we haven't smelt it. Gaiac 10 is 567 Canadian dollars here for 100 mils. Did they just keep increasing the prices of the city exclusives then? Gaiac wood essential oil smells strangely of smoked bacon, says Leah. And Gaiac wood essential oil is very cheap, says Yura. Just got some. What I love about this one is, again, the link with the musks. I wouldn't be at all surprised if one of the main musks used here is cashmeran, and there isn't a huge amount happening in this perfume, but what is happening is spot on, because you have got the incensey, bark-like, woody, vegetal feel of the Gaiac, and you've got the musks in the base. And is it Japanese? Is it appropriate that it's a Tokyo City exclusive? I suppose in the sense that it's fairly restrained. It wears quite close to the skin, and if we're being stereotypical, Japanese people like perfuming their houses beautifully in a sort of diffusive way, but they don't necessarily like perfuming themselves in a diffusive way. And so yes, I think then it does work. And Kev Fine says, I really like the new Cedrat 37, which I think is exclusive to Berlin. Is it? I haven't smelt that one. I would like to try and get hold of a sample. Nikolai's Bois Belize has a nice Gaiac wood base. Thank you, Chang. And Woozy says, I think I'll stick with Iris 39 or Patchouli 24 for autumn. Well, Patchouli 24 is another Annick Menardo masterpiece. And finally from Mateusz, my number one sandalwood is Bois d'Azil and Gucci Envy, but Envy is not technically a sandalwood fragrance. Right, we've got 3 to go. We need to get a move on. Let us do this one because this is it's a very very new release, and it was certainly new to me. Again, a house that we haven't talked about here before on Love at First Scent, but I have a feeling we will. This is from Maison Crivelli. Let me know if you are aware of some of their releases, and this is their Osmanthe Kodoshan. And yes, it's on Osmanthe scent. I think you've got to do Osmanthe in the autumn as well, haven't you? Because that's got, well, mists and mellow fruitfulness again, isn't it? Thank you, Mr. John Keats. Christine says, I bought Gaiac 10 in Tokyo and it seemed very appropriate, light, dry, subtle, close to the skin. Thank you. And just going back to Gaiac, Eric says, for Gaiac, I adore Aqua Vitae from Maison Francis Kurkdjian. And for Monardo, I just bought a bottle of Bois d'Arménie. Enjoy them. But this, when I first smelt this and I wore it, the only live on YouTube where I smile the whole way through, says Sue. Oh, that's very kind. Thank you very much. Osmanthe Kodoshan is a great tea scent, easily rivals both Tea for Two and Osmanthe Yunnan, says Woozy. This was made by Stéphanie Bacouche, by the way, released this year. And I actually thought that the brand itself have done a superb job of describing it, because on the back of the packaging you get this little blurb, just a list. And the list goes, jade poles, bamboo bridges, wuthering mist, mad meditation, leathery osmanthus, frankincense spirals, peppery star anise, dark leaves, smoky patchouli, floating mountains, ivory dawn, gold infinity. And I remember reading this and smelling and spraying it on myself and going, check, check, check. Jade poles, yeah, okay, maybe, but mostly check, 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 check. And even floating mountains, check, because floating mount. How many of you out there have read Artist of the Floating World by Kazuo Ishiguro? Beautiful book. I think for me, when somebody says floating mountains, I don't literally think of mountains floating, but I think of mountains that look as though they're floating because they've got peaks that have gone through the that are above the cloud line, and so you picture clouds and then you picture a mountain peak above it, and there is something strangely soothing about that image, and the fact that it's misty also then ties in with autumn. I like that description, says Yura. Elva Nui says, wow, how enticing. A spicy osmanthus sounds heavenly. It's not crazy spicy. It's in fact, there isn't any one particular thing that stands out here. It's a very, very smoothly, holistically blended composition. So well done to Stéphanie Bacouche. Have you tried any others from Maison Crivelli? Iris Malikan gets a lot of love from the community, says Woozy. I have tried a few, and I'm thinking I need to do a video on them fairly soon and maybe get the founder on for an interview. By the way, we need to get the interviews going again, so start sending me some ideas of who you would like to see interviewed on here. This sounds interesting, says Ilias. Love me some osmanthus. Maybe I'll try this. And Miyako. Yura says, I've not tried it. Interesting. And somebody mentioned tea. So yes, if I did have to pick out standout materials, it would be the osmanthus, which comes across, as it usually does, as a sort of leathery fruitiness, and tea, and a gentle anisic spice, and not an overusage of musks. Wearing this feels very, very naturalistic. A lot of these other perfumes, as it so turns out that we've got on the list today, make heavy use of musks. And I'm sure this one has got its fair share of musks as well, but they're not very, very obvious. Can we do 2 in 6 minutes? Ishiguro says, Planter's Daughter, my favorite author, my favorite living author. Absolutely. I would so love to meet him one day. Although if I were to meet him, I probably wouldn't know what to say except to just go, I love your work. I don't know. Let's leave the oldest one for last. Let's go for this next one to 2016, and a brand that I know a lot of you fell in love with when you discovered them yourselves or when you discovered them through me. I absolutely fell head over heels in love with the brand when I discovered them. We have had the founders of this brand on one of our interviews. This is from Les Indemodables. This is their Oriental Velours, so their velvety Oriental. And I will probably have another sort of olfactory brain explosion when I smell this. This is probably the most autumn heading into winter scent on this list. Where can we pop it? Let's pop it on here. But ooh, a spider, says Woozy. What, seriously? Where? Because there was one that I had to shove out of the way here earlier. Has it appeared somewhere else? Never mind. I just ordered Vanille Havane and Rose de Jamal. I don't blame you. Wore Oriental Velours yesterday. Very good indeed, says Tina. Now I'm going to be freaking out about where the spider is. I don't have a phobia of spiders, but I would like to avoid having one in the video if possible. My first Les Indemodables, says Woozy, also one of my favorite myrrh fragrances. And we need to make a move, get a move on, because we have got under 5 minutes left. So I would say it fell to your left off the curtain. Okay, well, I hope it's all right. Little spider. I'll have to rewatch the video to see where... If he gets bitten, he'll be the Spider-Man of London. Let's go. I'm not based in London. But this is just the most beautiful balsamic resinous. I think for the sake of moving on, you've got my review of it on the blog, but I will say that this is what we will be saving towards the end of autumn when we need to go into winter. So sorry, Les Indemodables, but we need to move on. And the very last one on this list for a mellow autumn, is actually from 1985, from a brand that is celebrating a big anniversary this year, and are actually doing an event to celebrate that anniversary. And it is the brand that we still call Annick Goutal, even though they have rebranded themselves completely now as Goutal. This is one of their originals. It was one that was actually composed by Annick Goutal herself from 1985. This is Sables. I am reliably informed by fans of the brand that this has been reformulated, but then, tell me something from the 80s that hasn't been reformulated. This is the current bottle, so, I don't have a vintage juice. But this came up a little while ago when we were having discussions about Immortelle scents, and Sable is... Did you mean yummy? Says yes, Sable, says Elias. A good one to end on, because yes, there is something sandy and desert-like about it, but you've made it across the desert. The sand is glowing golden under the light of the most glorious russet auburn sunset. And you're standing there filled with this feeling of accomplishment at the fact that you've made it across your spiritual journey, whatever that may happen to be. And you're just taking stock and stopping and taking a deep breath and paying attention to your breathing before you decide what you're going to do next. And I think that's the beauty of Sable for me. And just the fact that it's called Sable also makes it sound as though it's very aware of change and nothing staying the same for long. Landscapes shifting, dynamics recalibrating. So that goes back to the idea that we started with at the very beginning of the video, that autumn 2021 is going to be a period for regrouping, taking stock of where we are, remembering where we are. Let's go back to that Jessie Ware song. So thank you very much to all of you for tuning in. The season is now officially has officially started. I will definitely be doing some single perfume review videos soon. If there's any particular things that you would like me to review, let me know and I'll see if I can get hold of samples of them. But of course we will have some more top 10s over the next few weeks and months, and interviews as well. A Liz Moore's interview, I've asked her, and she never got back to me. I should ask her again. Anyway, we are not gonna get beyond the 60-minute mark. I will see you soon. Be good. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.